Good morning, everyone. It continues to be a great honor serving the Beloit community and leading the dedicated men and women of our department. We continue to benefit from an increased sense of urgency and cooperation that is unmatched in other cities. Our collective efforts show continued success as the Beloit Police Department continues to strengthen leadership, enhance community relationships, and incorporate modern-day policing practices. This morning we provide a snapshot of our accomplishments in 2018 and goals for 2019. Big thing right off the bat was in 2018 the negotiation of a significant contract with our police and supervisory unions in which we moved to a 10-hour shift schedule. That schedule in and of itself created not only more cops on the street when we need cops on the street, but provided a greater work-life balance for our officers, provided greater opportunities for training and development, and it's the first of its kind in Wisconsin. No other police department has a full 10-hour shift such as this. We've also seen financial benefits from the schedule as well that help not only the police department but the city from a budgetary perspective. And this will come up again as we move through some of these other pieces, but that item itself was significant in allowing the department to continue to grow and move forward. In terms of enhancing leadership, in 2018, the department continued its robust reorganization of our personnel and operations with the goal of creating a sustainable organization, one in which we are constantly mentoring, guiding, and developing future leaders around our vision, mission, and core values, emphasizing our role as guardians. We are very proud to announce that we have recently completed a new recruitment video focusing on those core tenets. You can view the video on the police department website. We'll have a link available for you along with the information at the end of the press briefing. Our goal is to continue to build upon our existing team to enhance and sustain a character-driven, competent, and diverse Beloit Police Department. The department command staff, many of whom stand behind me this morning, were solidified, and each new leader was given specific programs and responsibilities that have greatly assisted our growth and success both internally and within our community. In terms of hiring and promotion, from January 1st, 2018 through January 9th of 2019, the department hired 15 patrol officers, 1 captain, 3 records clerks, and 1 crime analyst. In addition, we promoted 3 sergeants, 1 lieutenant, 1 detective, and 1 administrative assistant. So a lot of hiring and a lot of growth. 15 officers is roughly 20% of our force. In addition to the hires, and in the era where recruitment is very difficult, our department was also successful in diversifying with those hires. And we have a handout available for you that will show you the growth in diversity of the department over the past couple of years. Due to the hard work of our assessment and recruitment team and a lot of collaborations, we're making significant positive progress, and we are within 1 officer of full staffing. In terms of training, the department continues to enhance leadership skills through the International Association of Chiefs of Police Leadership and Police Organizations program. LPO is an internationally recognized program focused on law enforcement leadership development. We've graduated 25 members from our department, and the ranks from civilian all the way up through command staff. And we have graduated a total of 25 personnel over the course of the last couple of years. We have 6 persons in attendance in 2019. In addition, we have a lieutenant who will be attending the Wisconsin Department, or is attending the Wisconsin Department of Justice Command College, a 9-week executive level training course. And we have a sergeant who's been accepted to attend the Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command, a 10-week intensive program for leadership development at the mid-management level. With the advent of the 10-hour shift, officers have a common training day in which a variety of topics are covered on a weekly basis. This allows our department to ensure competency without additional overtime costs or staffing concerns. In a nutshell, we can train the department on a weekly basis without affecting street-level staffing, which is a win-win on both sides of the equation. Just this week, our officers attended active shooter incident management training. And in 2019, we'll be training an officer as a drug recognition expert. There's only 1 of these in the county currently. With the advent of impaired driving, much of which involves a mixture of alcohol and drugs, an individual trained as a drug recognition expert will be able to better assess impairment based on the 3-week training course that they attended certification. That's a national certification. We'll also be hosting a Northwestern Supervisory course in 2019, and we were selected to host another LPO course in 2020. So our training development of our personnel will continue forward. In terms of strengthening community relations, we've continued to see exponential growth in this very important goal. Our bike patrol unit debuted in June of 2018 and had a very positive effect on community engagement. Captain Stigler, who oversaw the implementation of that program and would be available for interview after the press conference in more details, but it's had a very positive effect in our community. On Halloween night of last year, they made a really great save of a little guy who got lost, got separated from his parents during trick or treat. It was dark, it was a little bit inclement from a weather perspective. They found this kid before the first broadcast went out. They had the kid located and back to mom. So again, because of their agility, flexibility, these bike patrols can get out into the neighborhoods much quicker and address some of these issues. Department personnel provided active shooter training to over 30 Beloit businesses in the last year. Lieutenant Lefebvre will be here to comment about the active shooter training course that was provided to our community businesses and what's planned for 2019. Our police explorers debuted in 2018. They immediately set out to assist in the Hackett neighborhood as part of the neighborhood revitalization strategy areas. These are 2 target areas in Beloit that are part of a grant in collaboration with our community services division, in which we focus in Hackett and the Merrill neighborhoods on reducing crime, fear, and disorder, while we also seek to enhance community services. Our explorers, under the direction of Lieutenant Sales, went out on foot and evaluated these neighborhoods for lighting, tree canopies, addresses that were missing or not visible, and a number of other environmental issues. They'll be out in the Merrill neighborhood later this year as we continue the NARSA project into the Merrill neighborhood. In 2018, we also created a new set of baseball cards in partnership with the State Line Boys and Girls Club. We participated in the Wisconsin Department of Justice Overtime Beat Grant, which allowed our officers to be out there working overtime in a position to not only proactively engage in crime and reduction of crime, but to proactively engage with our community. So one of the benefits of this is that while we're out there tracking down wanted persons, the cops are out there having pop-up picnics with the kids. We're playing basketball, we're playing football. This last summer, they were pushing kids on the swing in one of the neighborhood parks. I was out driving around, and suddenly a call came over that someone wanted for a robbery was located at a local laundromat. And I thought, oh, I better go over there and help them out. I didn't need to, because all these cops were running to this location. Not only does this give us greater capacity, but they go 1 minute from pushing kids on the swing to chasing down the robbery suspect. The guy never had a chance. And there's so many cops, and these young cops are pretty quick. They got over there, got this guy in custody, 1, 2, 3. So these have had not only a large effect on crime reduction, but a huge effect on community trust and building of relationships. We continued our monthly Colin with the Cop at Culver's, in which the officers engage, and some of them are actually okay colors, with the kids. And our social media. Social media has been a huge component of our success. We have a large amount of community members who participate through social media to help us solve crimes. Late last year, or mid-year rather, we had a community member who helped us solve one of the tavern robberies through communication with our department and through networking and social media. Just last week, we had a citizen involved in a call regarding an armed robbery that had occurred on 4th Street. And we continue to see this type of citizen cooperation, and not weeks or months later, but when the crime's being committed. Last week, we had a citizen observe an individual running down the street carrying a knife and a mask. This would be called suspicious. She called right away because the community has an increased trust in our ability to follow up on their information, to bring people to justice in an appropriate fashion, and to keep our community safe. So that piece has been big, and we're going to look to grow that in the future. One of the ways in which we are doing that is through our Next Door Neighborhood social media site, which our Director of Strategic Communications could discuss with you more in depth. But in essence, it's like a virtual block watch. It enables neighborhoods to get online with folks in a particular geographic area to not only discuss neighborhood needs, but to discuss crime issues, and then they have the ability to connect with the police department to pass on information. It's also a site that we can look at for information, so that's helpful. In addition, at our upcoming NARSA meetings on March 13th and March 27th, we'll be discussing the implementation of some technology for our community. If you're familiar with the Ring Doorbell Project, Ring is a national model. It has excellent success in solving crimes that occur at people's residences or in their neighborhoods. And we're going to be bringing some of those technology opportunities to Beloit through this NARSA program as well. Captain Stigler can talk to you a little more about that. We partnered with our Beloit Domestic Violence Survivor Center and started earlier this year to do lethality assessment protocols in our domestic violence investigations. And the significance of this is the lethality assessment protocols, or LAPS as they call them, evaluate, based on research in a model that came out of Maryland, the likelihood that domestic violence victims may be killed or seriously injured. And so by doing the lethality assessments at each one of our domestic violence calls, part of the protocols then put that person in touch with a domestic violence counselor to provide resources to them, make sure they're safe, and to prevent lethality in the domestic violence arena. That's been extremely successful as well, and we've seen the referrals to the Domestic Violence Center go up as a result. And we had no domestic violence homicides in 2018. We're taking an increased oversight in terms of our licensed premises, and we're partnering with Rock County Health and the Place of Last Strength project, which is a project that looks at people arrested for impaired driving and where did they come from before they were arrested, what taverns, what convenience store did they purchase their alcohol at, in which they were either overserved or allowed to purchase in an intoxicated state. And then we follow up with County Health and our Alcohol, Beer, and Liquor Licensing Committee to provide them that information, so when they review licenses, they have more data to work with than they had previously. And we have continued our partnership with the Rock County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. And as you know, that's pretty big. Human trafficking is a pretty big issue across the nation. We have it here in Wisconsin, and we're networking with not only the state, but our regional counterparts to address human trafficking, not only from the perspective of sex trafficking, but labor trafficking as well. Lieutenant Colton will be available to talk to you about the lethality assessments and also our connectivity with Beloit Crime Stoppers. Legislation last year, we were successful in partnering with our local state representatives in bringing legislation forward that was signed by the governor to keep serious child sex offenders who aren't from Beloit to coming to Beloit. And previously, the law allowed for someone from another county who never lived here, and we had this situation in 2018, to be housed here in an area where they shouldn't have been. So we were successful in piece one in terms of changing that law so that only sex offenders from our county can be housed here. The second piece that we have to deal with is some of the other gaps in the law itself that allows serious child sex offenders to live next to a kid if they have been convicted of only a specific crime. And so there's a second piece to that we'll keep working with our legislators on. I'd be happy to discuss that further after the briefing, but we got one piece of it done, and that's a pretty significant piece, I think, for our community. In terms of incorporating modern-day policing practices, again, we go back to the 10-hour shift and its effect that it's had on the safety of our community and the work-life balance with our cops. Within the first week of going to the shift, we went live on April 1st. We had a shooting Easter Sunday. Again, in the past, we probably would have had to call in officers to handle that crime scene and still continue to answer our calls for service. But because of the overlap of the 10-hour shifts, we had enough resources in place to handle the shooting scene, investigate it, and also handle our calls for service. In addition, about a week after that shooting, we didn't have much in terms of suspects initially, but about a week later at 10:30 at night, officers responded to a shots fired call on the east side of town. Again, because of the amount of officers on the street at that time based on the new shift schedule, we were able to respond quickly. We were able to set up a perimeter and coordinate that response, and we ended up interrupting a drug house robbery in which shots had been fired, arrested several individuals, also recovered firearms. All of the individuals were from Chicago, and it turns out that by the virtue of that quick response and capturing the suspects in the firearms, we matched that to the shooting the week before and tied them to that shooting as well, clearing both crimes. The likelihood of that occurring prior to the 10-hour shift is very thin, because we wouldn't have had the amount of resources on the street at that time under the old shift model. So again, the success of it is paying off on a daily basis. We completed our first year of body-worn cameras. Lieutenant Sales has been the purveyor of that program. He'd be available to discuss that as well if you have any questions on the success of the body-worn cameras. But in many instances, it has saved us countless investigative time. There have been many instances where we have had citizen complaints filed that have been resolved simply by reviewing the video and seeing what actually occurred, and going over that with the complainant to explain to them what actually occurred. Many of the times people complain about things in which they weren't physically there at the time, and having that video available is extremely helpful. We've enhanced our crime analysis of overdoses, and the opioid overdose epidemic is still very significant, and I think our continued approach to this, a data-driven approach. One of the things that we've found just in our community is that in the last, from January 17 to February 20th of this year, the city of Beloit experienced 140 overdoses. 15 of those were fatal. Now those are only overdoses that are known to our department, that come to our attention. They're not overdoses in the county, they're not in some other jurisdiction, just in the city of Beloit. And as we started to look at the data involving these people who are involved in the overdoses, we found that 20 of them accounted for 46 or 33% of those overdoses, because so many people addicted to opioids continue to overdose again and again. And again, that's only the overdoses that we are aware of. Persons can purchase Narcan on their own, they can get it from their friends or family and be saved from an overdose by them without ever having that come to the attention of the police. But the point is, we have a small amount of people who are involved in a large amount of opioid overdoses because of that very significant physiological addiction that they can't solve on their own. And we'll be continuing to analyze that data. Of those 26 of those people are now deceased. So I think we have a portrait of future lethality in terms of opioids as well. And we'll be looking to work with our legislative partners to further address this issue, because enough is not being done past the initial stages of Narcan and needle exchange, and much of what I would call enabling devices. They are not solving the problem. 2019, we'll be moving to multi-frequency portable radios for all officers, so that we'll have true interoperability. We currently don't enjoy that, and obviously a significant safety issue and communication issue for the department. Lieutenant Lefebvre will have more on that if you'd like to discuss that issue, and he'll be rolling out that program shortly. IBRS, the incident-based reporting system, is a change. This is an FBI system that currently, when you get crime stats, which we'll be discussing shortly, uniform crime reports that the FBI puts out, those are based on summary reporting methods, in which it's a hierarchy. So if you have a robbery and a sexual assault that occur in the same incident, it's currently the sexual assault will get reported because it's the highest in the hierarchy. Under incident-based reporting, all crimes are reported. So what this does is really change the baseline reporting for our department and other departments going forward. The deadline to make this change is January 1st of 2021. Our department has been a pilot department in Rock County for the last roughly year, and we'll be transitioning to this reporting mechanism likely before the end of 2019. So as we look at our crime stats currently, next year will be kind of a new baseline. It will increase the number of crimes reported because of the mechanism, not necessarily because there's more crime, but it's a more accurate reporting mechanism, and it also gives us a lot of information about victimology and other things that will help us. Our Director of Support Services, Jillian Peterson, is here to discuss that if you have any questions about that transition to IBRS. So we've had a lot of things going on over the last year and a lot planned for 2019 just in terms of department operational successes. While we did have some upticks in robbery and rape in 2018, as rape mostly because of the FBI changing in the way in which they count them, our Part 1 crimes are down 9% in 2018. And more importantly, over the 2-year trend from 2016 through 2018, our Part 1 crimes are down 12%. So we are seeing a several-year trend of consistent, steady crime reduction, while we see an increase for arrests and solvability of those crimes. So an extremely important statistic for our city and our community. And looking at more than 1 year's worth of data really gives us the trend. It really gives us a better sense of the direction that we're going in terms of safety and our effect on crime in Beloit. Most significantly, shootings down 57% compared to 2016. In 2018, we had 3 incidents where 4 persons were shot, all cleared by arrest. One shooting is obviously one too many, but because of the diligence of our department members and cooperation of our community, all of those incidents have been cleared and the perpetrators have been arrested. Shots fired, down 61% since 2016. Another significant safety piece for our community. Many in our neighborhood had experienced shots fired into their residence. This is not only extremely dangerous to them, but it's scary to live in a neighborhood where things like that are occurring. And so what's most significant about the drop, we had 24 incidents in 2018, cleared 7 of those cases by arrest, but most significantly, the targeting of houses is down 90%. So in 2016, 21 houses had shots fired into them. In 2018, 2 of the 5 incidents where a target was struck involved the residents. Again, creating safer neighborhoods, safer communities, and we're clearing more of these crimes, in part due to our diligence and community cooperation, but also the use of technology. Our partnership with the Rockford Police Department and the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network has allowed us to identify ballistics from one crime scene to another and tie in cases and help us clear these crimes. Our clearance rates as a department, again, significant. The violent crime clearance rate for the city of Beloit in 2018 is 66%, which is much higher than the national average for violent crimes clearance rates in cities our size. Using the 2017 FBI Uniform Crime Report, which is the last full year's crime report of data as a comparable, we're up 18% from the national average. If we compare us to the national average for Midwest police departments, we're up even more, 25% more than Midwest police departments in terms of clearing our violent crime. Same is true for our property rate clearances. We're above the national average there as well. We're clearing 33% of our property crimes compared to 18.5% for other Midwest departments, or 22.2% for cities our size. Again, I would attribute this to the great work and dedicated work of our personnel across the board, the active participation and support of our community, and our use of technology. We've come a long way in the last several years, and it's not just statistically shown, but people in our community feel safer. It is safer. Our business community is growing, and those are all positive marks for the city of Beloit. As a team with our community, we're preventing future victimization. So the more of these crimes we solve, the more people we get in custody for committing them, we're preventing other crimes. We know from statistics and data that it's only a small percentage of people in any community that are committing crimes. And the sooner we can track those folks and their locations and get on and put cases together, the safer our community is. And it's not just our community, it's our community around us is safer. Because the city of Beloit is safer, the communities surrounding us are safer. Most of the activity is happening here. We have the largest force in the area, and we have the greatest capacity to solve these crimes. So the message is clear: don't commit crime in Beloit or you'll be caught. And as an anecdotal to that, we received an email from one of our officers several months ago who made a traffic stop of a prolific felon. And at the time of the traffic stop, the individual was wanted. He had a felony probation violation, and we were looking for him in regards to some other criminal activity. Previously, the officer noted this guy would have fled. He would have fled in his car, or would he jumped out of his car and fled on foot. And so they were all kind of surprised when they stopped the car, approached it, and he was still sitting in the car. They got him out, made the arrest without incident, and they were so curious that they asked him at the end, hey, usually you always run from us, what's going on? And the guy told him, using much more colorful language, that he and others had learned not to mess around in Beloit anymore, and that the police were basically going to find you and apprehend you, so you may as well essentially surrender and not try and get away. So that's the kind of message that not only within a community, but within those that tend to commit crimes, if that's the thoughts that are going through their heads, that's a very strong message as well for what's going on in Beloit. In terms of 2019 goals, we'll be hoping to attain full staffing. We'll be conducting an analysis of our cold case homicides and hopefully beginning to get to the investigative stage. And Lieutenant Kaltenbrunn is here to talk about that. If anyone's interested in following up, we have about 20 cold case homicides going back to 1996 that we are evaluating in terms of evidentiary value, witnesses, and the investigation themselves, and then we'll prioritize and start that process. We'll be seeking to expand focus on traffic-related issues. Again, a nice topic to have to focus on because we have done so well in terms of crime that we can now start working on some of these traffic and speed issues in the community. And we'll be using a number of different things, from some enhanced technology to enhanced enforcement to deal with that. We're going to continue to focus on the overdose epidemic in terms of gathering data and trying to work with our partners to take a more enhanced approach to this issue. We'll be continuing to work with community collaborations, our community engagement on the NARSA project, our neighborhood revitalization and strategies. And we'll be continuing with planning for a new law enforcement facility. So in closing, I'd like to thank all of our dedicated staff and leadership within the department, our community who has steadfastly supported us and really has skin in the game in terms of turning the tide here in Beloit, as well as our elected officials and our city leadership team who has supported our efforts. Without that, it'd be very difficult to get to where we are today. I'm extremely proud of all of their collective efforts and look forward to continuing success for the city of Beloit. And I'll be happy to take any questions, and all the command staff folks will be available for follow-up relative to any of their areas of project areas as you may be interested in.